Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. I'm Nancy Moore, the host of this podcast. And today I am really excited to welcome a friend of mine to the podcast. Today's guest is Jason Collington. And Jason, welcome.
Welcome. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate you very, very much.
I am excited about it. Well, let me tell people a little about you because you bring a unique perspective into what you're doing. You have decades of experience in storytelling and working your way up at the Tulsa World. And now you have embarked on your own career path as far as consulting. You have Jason Collington Consulting, and you are helping leaders, businesses, and organizations navigate some of their biggest decisions. So you actually worked for the Tulsa World for over 30 years, and this is a new chapter. And what I love most too, Jason, is this is so perfect for you, this role. You describe yourself as a teacher and you definitely are having the heart of a teacher. And so this consulting role is definitely along those lines. So we're going to be talking about storytelling, leadership, mentorship, parenting, how to think well in a world that is constantly moving. We'll probably talk a little about AI because that's kind of the thing that everybody's talking about right now. So whether you have a team, you're raising kids, you're building a business, you're building something meaningful, or you're just trying to figure out your next step, this conversation will give you a lot of direction. So I am thrilled to welcome you, Jason.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate our friendship. You and my beautiful wife are friends, and what I love is how you just mentioned in an episode a couple times ago about community and how to build it. And what I love is that we have community as close as to the people with you. If you have that, then you can have community elsewhere too. So I really appreciate this friendship.
Yeah, yes. It's been really good. Yes, Monica is absolutely amazing. And I tell you all the time, but you guys are such a powerhouse couple. You both complement each other. And anyway, I know great things are to come from that later on too. But I want to talk about your new chapter because people will say, what is Jason doing? Like, what is he now offering? And so you have started your own, after working for a company, the Tulsa World, for over 30 years, you have taken a different turn. And so working for yourself, you have so much knowledge in business, and I want to talk about, what kind of inspired this transition and then what you're doing. Tell us about the firm that you have started.
Well, there's kind of a lot of things happened at once. Isn't that kind of how things happen? I remember one time where you start this job and then this happens into you in your personal life. You go over here and then you make this change and then that's something else parallels with it. For me, a lot of things came together at one time. 26 years at the Tulsa World, starting as a writer, working my way all the way through 30 years in journalism. I kind of got to a point where, the company I was working for was having to make some, tough decisions. And so one of the decisions that I made was to put my name on the list. And what that did, that allowed some other people to stay at the Tulsa World, but at the same time, it allowed me to launch in what I'm calling my second mountain. David Brooks got a book out now called The Second Mountain. And it's where you've climbed one mountain and you're like, okay, I've done that. And, I'm very, very lucky. I'm going to be inducted into the Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame in May. And that's something that I did not think was going to happen right after leaving the Tulsa World. But again, one of those Monica things, she made that happen and gathered the troops and got everything done. Her and my friend Barbara Allen worked together to get me nominated. And I'm just absolutely astonished that I'll be there's less than 100 Tulsa World employees in the Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame in our 120 years. So that means a lot. But my thing is that I'm sitting here going, what should I be doing? We don't have much time left if you really think about it. And so it's really, you've got to be intentional. I hear the clock ticking in my career, in my life. I am someone who's sitting here going, what can I do now? And so I kind of took a minute This was not a grand plan. This was not something that I had been thinking about for weeks or months. It's something I had to decide in days. And so I sat there and said, okay, what can I do if I'm given this chance? And let me assure you, I am not a solo act. I am someone who, through the partnership with my wife, who has an amazing job, an amazing career, I've been given this opportunity to start from scratch and to build something from nothing. Um, and I really shouldn't say nothing. I'm building something off my reputation, Nancy. I'm building something off my work ethic. I'm building something off my network, and it means a lot that I'm sitting here now, just launched in January, and that I'm working with nonprofits. I'm working with leaders. I'm working with small businesses, and there's a lot of people who have a lot of things they need help with, and whether it be a website, whether it be strategy. I've kind of had three buckets right now: strategy, stories, and significance. Everyone's dealing with something in one of those areas, and so I'm trying to provide that guidance.
Okay. Yeah, and I know personally from being a friend, I am so proud of you for being nominated into the Journalism Hall of Fame. And there's one thing to have Monica and Barbara, nominate you, but you made that on your own accolades. So congratulations. I couldn't
Well,
let that pass because
well,
that is a big thing to be in a Hall of Fame.
well, and to read the nomination letters from former students that I've had in class, to people I've worked with, to people that were interns, it was reading those letters reminded me that it was all worth it.
Yeah.
The Tulsa World is one of the best journalism institutions in the country. It always
Yeah.
has been.
Yeah.
And I am honored to be a part of that legacy. I'm honored to be a part of what the Lorton family started and what they built in our community. It still plays an essential role. And my
Hmm.
hope is that one of the other things I'm doing in addition to my consulting practice is hopefully going to help strengthen the Tulsa World and all the other local news organizations, because news is still where a lot of things happen. And for example, when you think of Martin Luther King, that image in your mind that you have of Martin Luther King, a
Hmm.
journalist put it there. A
Hmm.
photojournalist stood out and in the sun and got that picture that you now have in your mind. That's what journalism is. It gives you the pictures and gives you the knowledge to know what is real and what is not. And so
Yeah.
I think it's really, really important, and again, still essential to the careers that I'm looking to do now.
Hmm. Let me ask you, you mentioned these different buckets because I know your calendar has filled up. I'm sure you have some room for, working with others, but people know how good you are with storytelling, with you have such a mind for business. And so if you would kind of talk about those buckets and how you're working with people a little bit, that would be great.
Well, the first thing is I let everyone know that, we're in the attention economy. We've been in it for about 10
Yes.
years now, and we're about to evolve because the attention economy has gotten a little tricky because
Hmm.
getting attention is now the easiest thing to do.
Hmm.
And now I feel like we're going into the concentration era. So you got attention, but do you have their concentration? And so in the strategy bucket, when I talk about what are the ways that you need to engage with people, what are the ways you need to tell stories, I still believe a great story resonates like nothing else in the community.
Hmm.
I just gave platelets the other day for the first time in my life. Never have done that. It's where you can't use either of your arms for about 2 hours, and they're extracting. They're grabbing the platelets from you. And I have a friend who is going through blood cancer, has for 2 decades, and she talked about how there's this huge platelet shortage. Well, she told that story on social media, and then another one of my friends, Jenny Graham with the Tulsa Flyer, saw that, wrote a whole story about it, and I couldn't step away but be inspired. And so I signed up with the American Red Cross, sat there for 2 hours, watched some documentaries, and gave platelets for the first time. And I've got another appointment. That's what we can do with storytelling.
Hmm.
And the strategy now to tell the story and to get the significance, right? So you have the strategy to find out what the story is, how to tell it, because you can't just create a story, you got to connect it. And then for there to be significance, for you to look at your busy schedule and find 2 hours to get right. those are all interconnected. And so what I'm doing is I'm kind of offering a roadmap and a compass to go, okay, you want this, that's the result. That's way down the line. Let's start with the strategy to get to the result. And we do that through story and through raising significance, because nothing really moves unless you press. And I've said that for a long time. And that's why I think the media sometimes is called the press, because a lot of things don't move unless you press a little bit. It's not a shove. It's not a push. It's a press. And I think that there's many, many, many examples the Tulsa World and other local media have written lately that reminds you of that significance. Those are the true influencers, if you will. That word's been kind of stolen from the nomenclature of journalists, but they're not. They're just trying to present the facts straight and arrow. Here it is, and now you got to sit there and go, well, now that I know this, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. And so start with strategy. Figure out the stories, tell them the right way at the right time, in the medium that makes the most sense to the audience you're looking for, and then raise the significance. So therefore, when people look you up, when people ask ChatGPT, what should I know about Nancy Moore? Should I trust Nancy Moore? That is what people are going to a lot of the AI models and asking. They're asking, what realtor should I trust? Who can sell my house the fastest in Tulsa? And so some of the clients that I'm working with, I'm letting them know, this is happening. And this is what the world of, I call it a digital identity audit. What is the digital bits and bytes say about you when people ask an AI model? And some people are very surprised at what it says, because it may be right, it may be wrong. I asked one time, should I trust this realtor? And the first response was, well, there are no red flags in the legal system. That's a message you want to kind of have a little bit more to say about, right? When it's someone's looking to find a realtor. So it's those kinds of things that I'm trying to help people through, because a lot of people, these small business owners, I'm telling you what, Nancy, they are trying to run the business. They don't have time to grow it. They don't have time to take care of those little things. And so I'm working with some great small businesses, helping them with their digital identity, with their website, with their online store, and trying to build up an easy way for people to go, if I want to shop Tulsa, how can I do that? That's another project that I'm working on. That's hard to do right now. That should be easy. As I said, strategy, stories, and significance. What I'm so far since January, those are the buckets that I'm finding a lot of need in, and those are the people I'm trying to serve right now.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. Okay. So you talked about the attention economy. So what should leaders, entrepreneurs, nonprofits understand about getting attention?
Well, you got to start telling your team, are we passing the thumb test? One of the things I said in the Tulsa World newsroom a lot was, are we passing the thumb test? And the thumb test is the 1 second before your thumb scrolls to the next thing. That's the thumb test. And eye track surveys have shown, and other studies have shown, it's about 0.9 seconds before you scroll up with your thumb on your phone. And so the photo's got to be right. The first 3 words have to be right in the message or the update. The topography has got to be right. The mood, the tone that you're trying to convey needs to be right. Do you use white letters or black letters? And remember, you're up against a graffiti of other things on that scroll. And so the idea is you want to sit there and go, wait a second, how can I stop the thumb? Because that is the market. The marketplace of content, the marketplace of attention right now is controlled by the thumb and the brain. And the brain in about less than a second goes, don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care. That's the marketplace that you have to live in. Your business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a nonprofit, think about trying to conveying a message to help this nonprofit or help your mission, and you have less than a second. You used to remember back in the day, Nancy, we talked about the 10-minute, elevator pitch. It's now a 1 second elevator pitch. And so I don't like marketing campaigns as much as I like, what's the attention campaign? The Savannah Bananas owner has talked about, we don't have marketing plans, we have attention plans. And I think that's important to kind of sit there and go, what is it that we can do in that to pass the thumb test so that they don't scroll up? And that could be just an element of motion in a graphic. It could be a video. Those are things that you have to kind of discuss when you're making that strategy,
Yeah.
because certain people stop, but if you look at a Gen Zer, this is what I see.
Mm-hmm.
What I see them with their phone. It's very
Mm-hmm.
quick.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to sit there and go, okay, if that's the marketplace, if that's the rules of the game, how do we make the playbook?
Mm-hmm. So okay, so let me say then you're talking about the rules of the game. The rules of the game is changing
Mhm.
with AI. So with you being such a rich journalist, storied, now award-winning journalist. I know you've a lot of awards, Hall of Fame now, but talk to me about your perspective on AI. Talk to me about should people be fearful? Should people be leaning in? Because this is your background. You are a storyteller and you are so good at it. And so if you would kind of share your perspective on, what you kind of see coming down the pike and maybe how it could help business, how it could hurt business, that kind of thing.
Well, the good news is the AI only knows what we tell it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it only knows what it can scrape. It only knows what it can mine in the digital files of websites and databases all over the country. So not too long ago, well, actually a long time ago, we used to Google ourselves, right? And now I'm asking people to ask Claude, to ask ChatGPT, to ask different AI models, who am I? Who is Jason Collington? Who is Nancy Moore? And you'll see that it starts pulling from different sources. It could be a database over here. It could be Wikipedia over here. It could be maybe a story that a newspaper wrote about you 10, 15 years ago. And so what you got to do is, like, right now it's pulling from all the sources. So when ChatGPT first launched, I wrote a column for the Tulsa World, and I asked it a very simple question. Who is the mayor of Tulsa? And in this column, I let the people know that at that point, when ChatGPT first came out, the answer was, we're sorry, we are not old enough to know who Mayor G.T. Bynum is. You should refer to legitimate, trusted local news sources for this answer. And when I wrote that column, I had a lot of people reach out and go, what is this? This AI thing is dumb. It's not smart. It's not whatever. Well, I assure you, if you ask it now, it'll pull from all kinds of things and tell you exactly and give you a profile, if you will, step by step of who GT Bynum is. But when I wrote that, as you see, it tried to pull that information. It's a pull medium. So it's trying to pull information. It's not a push medium. But it's going to become one. It's going to give you a heads up. Hey, there's a traffic accident coming up here. You might want to avoid it. It's going to go from a pull medium to push medium. The internet was the same way. And so what we have to sit there and go is, what do I have 100% control over? I'm a huge proponent of therapy, and I can tell you, let me save everyone a bit of money. One of the questions they ask you is, what do you have 100% control over? What you have 100% control over is your digital identity. If you Google Jason Collington right now, the first result is my website, jasoncollington.com. And that is by design. I've had that website and domain for more than 15 years. And on it, I am controlling what is up on the top of Google organic results. Well, now I've had to teach AI, Gemini with Google and others, because now I have a website that I've updated, and I have a whole page on my website that's a quiet page. So you can't see it when you go to my website, but I have one where I made a Wikipedia-like entry of myself. Now, I'm not on the official Wikipedia, but it loves to look for Wikipedia-styled biographies, which are selling very, very well right now, and every business is trying to get one. And so what I did was I made a free one and put it on my website, made it a quiet page. And now when you ask ChatGPT who I am, it's reading from that page from my website because it's looking for a Wikipedia-like biography that's written in the style of Wikipedia. And now it reads from that. Well, I have 100% control of that now. And I've done some testing to make it change this to this. And it updates about every 24 to 48 hours. And it'll read the script that I have given it. So as a business, you need a digital identity audit to know what is out there, because all the AI models are looking for what they can grab, and they're looking from free sources and paid sources. So they're looking into the court system to see if you've had any lawsuits against you, or speeding tickets. They're looking to see, if you where you live, and if you have a Google account, or if you have a Gmail, which is all, as you know, red. All your Gmails are red, and so it's sitting there going, okay, here's all the information. Let me organize it and tell you who this person is. But when someone comes back with, well, should I trust this person? Well, that's where you got to start showing up on some rankings. For example, I've got a bank client, and they are ranked on communitybanks.com or .org or .net, something like that. And they didn't even know that ranking was out there, but this place ranks community banks. And so now that they know, because when I asked ChatGPT about them, guess what? Because community banks ranks this bank X. Well, they didn't even know that existed. And so now we're finding out, what are the rules of that game. If you don't know the rules, you're being played by the rules. And so it's really important to figure out, okay, I have control over my website. A lot of people's websites, you might have an old website that's still being pulled by AI. AI doesn't know that's an old website. I've had one client, they had 3 old websites still out there. And what they did was they make a new website. Well, they never turned off the old website. And so they were pulling old information, old hours of service, an old location was another example with another client. So you're sitting there, like, it kind of lets you take inventory of what is your digital inventory, what is out there, and then you can control some of it. You can't control that arrest that was reported on by local media, but there's different things like that. You've got to kind of know what's out there to know then what to do, and then what you can control, your website. If you make that the significant website about you, then you can control the narrative a little bit. But as I said, that's what's the game. The game is finding out what is out there, because it's going to pull from everywhere.
Okay, that's interesting. I have not done that, Jason. So after our conversation, I'm going to do that. I'm going to Google or Chat GPT myself.
Well, and you've got to sit there and understand it's trying to find out, because it's learning too. If you're on the free version or paid version, it's going to learn from whatever you tell it to. So it's not just pulling from information. It's also learning. There are some people that are waking up and turning on ChatGPT and teaching it things verbally, just talking to it. Yeah. And so there's all kinds of new content coming in. There's a content war going on. And very much like, I don't know if you remember content farms. They were something that kind of popped up when Google was very, keyword rich, and you wanted to own a certain keyword. You would make a content farm and pump out all these pages of content. That was kind of what we call AI slop now, which is just, non-human directed, created content about a certain subject. So therefore you would show up on Google listings. There's always a different marketplace. There's always different rules. There's always different forces in a marketplace. And so right now you got to know what those kinds of are. And that's what you got to learn now, because it is a little bit different, and it's about to change again.
Okay. So you mentioned something that you're coming out with, and I want people to kind of hear from you what that is, and maybe, how they can work with you on that.
Absolutely. So one of the things, if you go to my website on jasoncollington.com, I've got what's called a declaration. So I don't like mission statements, Nancy. I'm not a fan of those, but I kind of made a declaration of independence. I decided to become a company of one, which I think is a trend that's been going on for a number of years, and I think is going to continue. You see a lot of different things in the labor market changing. And this company of one idea, I think we're going to become a nation of company of ones, if you will. It just makes a lot more sense. And I don't know if you've seen any of the labor statistics lately, but there's a lot of things that are going up and to the right and down and to the right. And so this company of one idea, that was one of my declarations. I'm going to become a company of one. And that's going to mean I'm going to work with other companies of one, the freelancers, kind of the free agent nation, and, pull and bring together, if I need a photo shoot, I know a number of photographers in town who can help me with that. If I need a customized website, I know a number of web designers in town to do that. If I need someone who's really good at crisis communication, I'll reach out and employ those people. So I'm not looking to build a firm. I'm a consulting practice of one, a company of one. And so the consulting practice is one priority. The second priority, which I listed in that Declaration of Independence, is I want people to understand that local is the answer. Local shopping, local reading, local in everything in your life. And so we have some amazing journalists and amazing journalism and amazing storytelling that's happening in our community and in our state. And so I'm launching the Collington Index at collingtonindex.com. And what it's going to be is a weekly website, email newsletter, and podcast where I read everything and I'll let you know what you should be connected to. If you're curious about X or this hot topic, here is the trusted journalism by the trusted journalists in Oklahoma who have written about it. There might be a really interesting story in Vanity Fair that month about an Oklahoman or about a topic that's affecting Oklahoma. I'll let you know about that. So it's kind of a free news summary where weekly I'm going to let you know, I'm going to read everything and then let you know kind of the greatest hits. And not only that, but know the reporters behind it and how to subscribe or to donate to the media company that's putting that out. On that website, there's a list of what the media landscape is in Tulsa and in Oklahoma. There's 44 local news outlets in Oklahoma. You may be surprised by that concentrate on either Tulsa or Oklahoma as a whole. There's 150 newspapers still throughout Oklahoma. There are tons of TV stations that are in different pockets. And so this is going to be kind of a weekly chance for you to go, what's really going on? And it's also going to be the answers to questions that I get. My phone still hits with, Jason, what's the real story on this? Okay, I know this is what they're saying, but what's the real story? I'm going to answer, instead of just answering that in one text, I'm going to share that weekly of the questions I'm getting, the answers I'm getting, and sharing that with everybody. My hope is that you sign up for the email newsletter, you come to the website, or you listen to the podcast, and you quit saying, I didn't know that. How many times do people bring up things and you say, I had no idea about that? Whether it be a local election coming up, which is scary. You should know about that. But if you know that there's a local election coming up, which we have several elections this year, do you even know where to start? I want you to start with the index because I'm going to have a whole page on there about here are the candidates. Here, if you want to read profiles, here's all the different sources. Because the role I'm going to play is I'm going to read everything. And because I'm agnostic to any one media organization, I'm going to link to everybody and say like, hey, the Tulsa Flyer has a really good profile on this candidate. Or over here, the Tulsa World has really written, Randy Crable's written the story on this issue that's happening. Or, hey, the KOSU has a wonderful story to listen to. It's like 4 minutes, and it really gets to the bottom of what's going on in Western Oklahoma with this drought. I want to be kind of that navigator to point you to the good journalism that's out there because there's a ton of it. We have, Nancy, we are so rich in great journalists, amazing journalism still going on. And so I want to help navigate people to it because sometimes you don't know where to start.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. I love that. And I want people to know that you are a resource for that. So, and you said, tell me the website again and I'll link it.
At collingtonindex.com. And again, there's an email newsletter you can sign up, but I'm also going to make, popular lists of things that, great places, patios to eat dinner in Tulsa. That's a list everyone likes to know. Keep one of those updated. It's going to be lists. It'll be some cheat sheets on some things. If you really want to know if you need to cram for that election, I'll have one for you.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Okay. So one thing before I ask you a couple of wrap-up questions, I want to make sure people know that you are working with people to transition in careers to help them with job placement. And the reason why is because you were talking about the labor and, trends going down, trends going up. Things are happening quickly to where I think that there, are people who are going to be losing their jobs or their jobs are going to change and maybe they're not quite happy with that change, whatever the case may be. So I would like for you to talk a little bit about what you offer to people who maybe are transitioning in careers or, what you offer for that.
Well, on jasoncollington.com, you can sign up for a free 30-minute session. It can be in person or virtual. And what I want to do is find out where you are. Are you looking for a job? Do you not like the job that you have? Did you just get laid off? And what I have found, I actually added career counseling. That was not part of the plan. I did not have that on my initial list of services. But I had one client reach out, and then that person got me another client and got another one. And then I've always helped recent graduates. You might have a college graduate in your family who doesn't have a plan yet, and
I might.
they may not even have a LinkedIn address or a LinkedIn account. And so, three of the things that I offer is we'll do a free 30-minute session. We'll figure out what you are, and then in a couple hours we can we can find out what is your story, because in a good cover letter, your story and your experience parallels the job description of the job you're trying to get. And so I kind of do an interview with you and find out what your true story is. A lot of people don't know what their story is. They don't know how they stand out. And I'm telling you, in this job market, you have to stand out. If you don't stand out, you're what John Maxwell calls it, the people pile, right? You're just, you're not in that, you're in that pack. How do you separate? And so I kind of help you through that. Once you're like, well, this and this and this, that's really interesting. I can make that into a story, and then we can parallel that with the job description of what their priorities are, what their ethics are, what their tenets are. And that makes a good cover letter. So we work on cover letter. We get that LinkedIn the way that it needs to be. There's a lot of sections of LinkedIn that don't turn on automatically that you should know about, that are very powerful. And what hiring managers look at and go, okay, I look for this, this, and this. Well, as someone who's hired a lot of people, I know what I'm looking for. A lot of people don't know what people are looking for. So on LinkedIn, we kind of help you separate yourself, and then we get your resume. Resumes are about results. They are not about responsibilities. That's a common mistake people make, especially if they ask ChatGPT to make them a resume. It'll talk about I was responsible for bing. I don't care. What were your results? What was your effect? When you went to this job, what needle moved? The results. So I help you go make a resume from responsibilities to results. So those are three things that we do in a couple hours. And then you have something that you can then market. Many times you need an online portfolio for a job. And sometimes people need kind of a this, not this. Let's take out the stuff out of college. Let's do what you did in your internship. Let's kind of navigate that and make that a real tight portfolio that within 2 minutes, someone's like, okay, this is who this person is. Whether it be a writing portfolio, a photography portfolio, it could be, in engineering, coding, all those kinds of things. You got to have a portfolio. So you need to show your work. And so that's something that I didn't really think about, but I'm helping some mid-level, mid-career people trying to get that next big job in a big city, and working with some people on that. That's where we're sitting down, and we spend a couple more hours. How do you interview? I'm really good at judging body language. I'm really good at being able to conversate back and forth. And there's been some people that had no idea that they kind of looked a certain way when they talked, or that they kind of had this tone when they're answering a question.
Yeah.
And so I kind of help you open up your blind spots and go, hey, do you know that you do this when you talk, or on this subject, you get a little tense and your body language changes? Let's work through that so that when someone does ask you that in a real interview, you don't tense up and you don't look the way that you look. So it's those kinds of things that I help you with in a career counseling role.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. So what would you tell people right now who are thinking about going into journalism, like people in high school, college? Where do you see this going with journalism and storytelling and AI?
I'm a optimist. I'm someone who believes the golden era of journalism is ahead of us. I think that there are going to be opportunities and things that you can do, because it's really about news gathering, news reporting, and then the writing, right? You can't write what you don't report. And so the gathering and the richness of what you can do, and the time that, you can help put together a database of this subject. Well, you got to make sure that when the database is put together, that it's accurate. Curtis Kilman, one of the best data journalists in Tulsa at the Tulsa World, gathering the data sometimes was the easiest thing, but then him going, wait a second, this data is wrong, or they've misaligned the cells, and so this information on this is wrong, or they put it up into four different. You got to get the data right before you can do the reporting, before you can do the writing. So I'm someone who thinks that AI can help with that. Again, I'm not looking for AI to create content. I think people have already got a taste of that, and I don't think they like it too much. Especially when it hallucinates things that are not real. But as I talked about, those are things that are going to be worked out. It's going to be a pretty good learner it's not going to make the same mistake over and over because it's going to learn from it. And so just as none of us knew how to read when we were born. Some of us didn't know how to do reading comprehension. Some of us didn't know how to write when we were born. We all learned that. And I think AI, you have to understand that it is going to learn. It's going to make mistakes. It's going to hallucinate some things. It's going to make up stories that aren't real. I'm sure we don't have any teenagers at all that do that in your experience. But what I'm saying is that we got to sit here and go, okay, what are the tools? Because the tools, remember, Watergate era, Nancy, the tools were a notebook, a telephone book, a rotary phone, and a typewriter. Those were the tools.
Yes.
And so we have now gone from that to the internet to, and now on newspapers.com, you can search newspapers.com, search every newspaper in the world.
Yes.
And within seconds, have all of the knowledge that's ever been reported about that.
Yeah.
So that's a tool that didn't exist 20 years ago. So the tools are going to improve. That helps the reporting. And journalism is still going to be a human first activity, a human first profession.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be where you're going to be able to do some things quicker than you could before, but it's also going to help you make sure some things are as right as they can be. Because that's what's the difference between journalism and everything else. Journalists try to get it right the first time. And they try to go after what's really going on, not what the echo chamber is saying, but truly what is right and wrong. And interview the person. Don't interview the person who might be the person on social media or might be the tweet. Like walk up to the person, knock on the door and talk to them. So the journalist, that's still a human first approach that's not going to go away anytime soon. I believe it's going to become more valuable. I'm someone who's trying to get this into everyone's vocabulary, human intelligence. So I want to talk about HI as much as I want to talk about AI. And the Oklahoma Women for Technology, they're a nonprofit here in Oklahoma. They're asking me to speak on that because I think AI is going to make us increase. It's going to allow us to be more human in a lot of areas. And what I love about a lot of the podcasts you focus on is finding out who you are, finding that passion, but also now that you can authentically find that, just think if you have the tools that allow you to become more famous than you are, right? You're on a podcast now on a platform that didn't exist 5 years ago. The ease of this didn't exist. It was hard. You had to hire multiple people. You've hired no one to record this, right? This is all technology that's helping you. That's what's going to help, I think, elevate this golden era of journalism because we're going to become more human out of this era. This AI era is going to make us more human. I truly believe that.
Okay. Oh, I like that. And I like HI. I like that. So how can children become thoughtful thinkers in today's fast moving world? So you as a parent and you as a, storyteller, you have such a unique perspective on this.
Well, I think that it starts with the children model what they see, Nancy. They model what they see. And so if they see parents reading, I won the parent lottery, right? I have the hardest working man I've ever met in my life, married the nicest person on the planet. That's my parents. That's where I come from. That's how this mold was poured. And so I am sitting here going, I saw my parents read all the time. So therefore I read all the time. I saw my dad read 5 newspapers on a Sunday, and he and I would be at the kitchen table and he'd be like, you got to read this. And I would, tear this page out, fold it over, Dad, you got to read this. And we would have these arguments, and they were debates. I think the debate skill, if your kid is not in debate, I think that's something that's essential. I did not have it at my high school, but I can tell a debate kid in seconds. I can tell like, oh, wait a second. Because what they do in debate, right, it's not just going after this. Sometimes you're given a topic that you don't agree with, but you got to argue that. And what does that take? That takes concentration. And one of the things that I want to try to teach people is understand, hey, reading a book, for example, I know that you might find this funny, but I have still the slip of paper that said Jason is a slow reader. He's not a good reader on my teacher evaluation in elementary school. And my dad was like, what in the world? Like, we've got magazines and books all over this house. Like, how are you not a good reader? Like, he was so frustrated. And so I just saw books, a bunch of words, kind of boring, blah. I was kind of on to the next thing. And finally, he handed me a comic book, a graphic novel, if you will. And I was like, what is this? And I looked at it and I saw the pictures. And guess what? In days, I went from the pictures to the words. And then I was like, give me another one. And then he gave me another one and then gave me another one. And within 6 months, I was reading novels. And so I needed the pictures to get to the words. And I've actually met several people who have this same reading journey, if you will. Talk to some reading specialists, and they talk about how this is. Sometimes you need the pictures to get to the words. If you just give them words, you're like, well, there's nothing that catches my attention. There's nothing that tunes me in. And so I'm someone who's sitting here going, you've got to get your kids to the words. Because reading is again, sit down and don't be distracted. I'm still distracted, but I'll still sit and read. I'll move my phone over or whatever, but kids model what they see. So if you're not doing it, you cannot expect your children to do it. You can't. And like me, I was modeling, but I was just like, I don't really want to read those books. And then finally I needed that gateway to go from visual to the words. So it's something to pay attention to. I know as a parent, you can only pay attention to so many things, and we're not ever going to do it perfect. And they still may rebel anyway and be like, I'm not really a reader. Or I'm not really this. There may just not be the time, but I think modeling it but really having the conversation. And if you say, I don't know, we'll learn about it. Get up to speed on it. One of the great things is that there's a lot of free resources. Now, some of those resources aren't the best resources, but if you've never been asked to study, I mean, I've studied all kinds of things, and it's the act of study. I'm reading, I'm learning. Some of my AI knowledge comes from a New Yorker article that I read, this really, really long New Yorker article about AI, but it's what Claude was doing and how it was learning at the very first days of it, before it was debuted, and the things that it was doing that was crazy. And you're like, oh my gosh. But at the same time, now that I've read that, right, you kind of, what you know is based on the people you meet and the books you read, that famous quote. I think it's also from what you see your parents do. And I think it's got to be an action. It can't be words.
Okay. Very well said. Okay. Well, I have enjoyed this conversation so much. There's so much more. We're going to have to probably have a part 2, Jason. There's so much more that we could talk about. But is there anything else that maybe you want to mention that I have not asked you about, or we have not, covered?
Well, I think, to those nonprofits, to those leaders, to those small businesses that are struggling, that are having some challenges they don't know what to do with. There really isn't one entity that's out there to help you. There's not like a small business solution department on every corner. You kind of have to find those people. And my thing is, wherever you are in your journey, maybe you don't know what to do next, or like several of my clients, they're like, I'm too busy doing my business. I don't have time to grow it. I need your help to fix this or look at this or help me do this. One nonprofit is like, we have a result we want, but we have no idea where to start in the community. My thing is, that's where you can, as I said, let's do a free 30 minutes, find out what it is that you need, what it is that you want, and then let's go back several steps and I'll help you build it. I think one of the things that we try to do, and again, another famous therapist saying, if you try to do this by yourself, you will fail. That is so true. I could not do what I am doing, this opportunity in this career, to do this without my incredible wife, right? We are leaning on her as I build this thing. And I think that you got to understand, you cannot go at it alone. There are no solo acts. There really aren't. So raise your hand, say, hey, I need some help. Hey, I don't know where to start. Hey, I don't know what to do. No matter how successful, I'm dealing with several businesses that are very, very successful, but man, they are hurting themselves on this, and they don't even know where to start. And they've tried to start, and some people have, kind of messed them up a little bit. Wherever you are on the spectrum, know that in a free 30-minute session, we can talk about what to do next, how to start this, and give you some options. Because really, if you try to go at it on your own, you try to solve it yourself. I'm a person who's been rebuilt by therapy, rebuilt by friends, the committee to rebuild Jason, as I like to call them. I've been through some things. And so if I tried to do all those by myself, Nancy, I would have failed terribly.
Yes.
And so I'm someone who believes reach out, say something, like you said on that podcast not too long ago. You got to build your community by the people closest to you. Start there and then reach out from there. And don't be afraid to I've raised my hand several times. I've sat down with some great people who know way more than me to learn from them, and they've poured into me. And that's what you got to do. That's what we're all here for. So if you're sitting there not knowing where to start, small business, nonprofit, or even your career, you're like, I want to jump to a bigger job, but I don't know how to do it because I haven't made a resume in 20 years. Reach out and let's talk.
So can people who are listening to this who are not in the Tulsa area reach out, and you have, online or Zoom calls as well?
Yes. Yeah, those 30-minute free sessions. I know you're an international brand, Nancy. You are in all the cities of the world. So yes, I offer virtual meetings. Absolutely.
Okay. Because I'm thinking there is no lose to that if it's a free 30 minutes with you. And you guys, if you are listening and you don't know Jason personally, reach out for that free 30 minutes because it is incredible what he knows, the resources, the connections, the knowledge that he has. That will be a life-changing call for you in 30 minutes. I'll just say that.
Well, I appreciate that. I had someone on my couch in my office the other day who came in, signed up. I knew him kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
And I was like, what can I help you with today? And he's like, well, I've got a list. And we went through the list, and it was a great session. And he's like, okay, I want to think about these things. I don't like to rush into things. I'm like, hey, because I sometimes you just need to listen.
Yeah.
I know my therapist has done a lot of that. And trust me, I am not a therapist. I am someone who is, I'm a recovering fixer. And so I'm trying to not just fix the problem, as you stated. I'm trying to listen and let you have some space, because we know what we want usually. We just need to have some time to think and to talk it out.
Yeah.
And so I like to offer that too. But my thing is, when you're ready to build toward what you want, I'm here for you.
Okay. I love it. We're going to end with that. Jason Collington, I've loved this conversation. I love you and Monica. You're incredible. I am happy that you have started this business. I know you are helping a lot of people and having some fun along the way. So I love that too. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.